Alright guys, so Sony just released a new update for the A7S III, version 3.0. Got the A7S III right now, and we're going to go over the new updates, what I think they missed out on and what they should have added, and just a few other things as well. Let's get into it. So I've had the A7S III pretty much since it came out. It's going on pretty much 4 years at this point now, and this was sort of like the flagship camera when it came out for Sony. Every YouTuber was owning one of these, and I remember a time when I was shooting on the R6 and all I was thinking about was getting the A7S III. Now that I have it and I've got the FX3, there are a few things I really want to talk into about this. So one thing we noticed was when the FX3 came out and version 2.0 came out for the FX3 and added a bunch of new features, we realized that the A7S III was not getting any more love. And that would be true up until version 3.0 when the new update came out. Now there are a few features that I'm really happy to have in the camera, but there's also some that are missing. But let's first talk over the good things. We now have a new revamped quick menu, which the FX3 has, which is really a welcome addition. I'm really happy about this because I felt that was a great thing to have. It's really quick and easy to access, and you have everything you need. But it also has the new kind of menu system in terms of when you're on the main screen, you've got now essentially easy access to white balance and other things that not even the FX3 has. Cameras like the Sony A7SIII as well as the A7SIII Mark II. Now, this now has DCI 4K, which is awesome, but guys, there is a weird caveat with this. So you will have to download or sign into the Creators app. You can do it either way through the PC, Mac, or from your phone, and you will have to get a license and download it and then put it either on your SD card, or you can download the Creator app to put in the license. So it doesn't automatically come with DCI 4K, which is really weird. I don't know why it's like that. It's an extra step, and I'm not really for it. I would have thought when you added the new firmware update that it would add the 4K DCI, but for some reason you will need to get the Creator app or sign in and download the license in order to install it. Luckily, it's not anything crazy, but it is unfortunately an extra step that you will have to do. We finally now have focus breathing compensation, which is a nice addition, but to be honest and fair, it should have came a long time ago. The A7 IV, which I also own, has had it for pretty much since the beginning. I don't know why they've delayed it this long for the A7S III. We also now have true 24p, which is amazing, and we also have shutter speeds of 1/48th of a second, so it's true to the 24p format, and as well as we have 1/96 when you're doing slow-mo in 48 frames per second, which again, for some people, is going to be a really, really awesome feature. Now, one feature that not many people are talking about that I'm really excited for is the fact now it has the shutter that can close when you remove the lens. Check that out. Yep, this is on the A7S Mark III. Now, this is actually a really interesting thing that I want to talk about, because one time, about a year ago, I remember using this and I had removed the lens, and guess what I saw? The shutter curtains were down. Now, I know this wasn't meant to be the case, and obviously when I turned it on, it never came back again, but that means that it's always been there. So my question to Sony is, why did it take so long for us to have this feature in? Like, especially for professional shooters out there, you know, we're shooting in like, you know, dusty weather, whether it's windy weather, and, you know, particles and stuff can get on the sensor. So why didn't we get this before? Not saying that I'm not appreciative, don't get me wrong. We're obviously very appreciative that we're getting some love for the A7S III, but the question is, it was always there. So why wasn't it added from the beginning? And why does the FX3 not have it? That's something that's been on my mind, and I wonder what you guys think, but it really should have been added, I think, much early on. Because again, the FX3, A7S III, these are professional cameras. At the very least, they should have the curtain shutter, you know, the curtain shutters. If the A7 IV can have it, and it's a much cheaper camera, why can't the A7S III and FX3 have it originally when they were released? Anyway, that's another feature that was not mentioned on the Sony firmware updates, which is, yeah, interesting. Now, another cool feature that it has been added to the A7S III is focus assist. So for example, if you're using autofocus and you want to manually override it, you can now manually override it with focus assist, which is a nice added feature. Now let's talk about some of the things that weren't added in that Me, and I know a lot of people, would have loved added in. Unfortunately, we did not get the custom LUT input. Now this feature, to be honest, I was probably looking forward to more than anything else. I can't tell you how much I love it on the FX3, being able to see that final image rather than just the gamma assist, which I think is honestly horrible. I mean, when you're lighting and everything like that, you get more excited as a filmmaker or even as a hobbyist, just being able to see what the image is going to look like with your chosen LUT, or if you've created one, whatever the case is. It's nice to see it on the screen ready to go. And the fact that they didn't add this in on the A7S III, but it is in the newer lower end cameras such as the Sony A6700, the Sony A7SIII Mark II, even the Sony ZV-E1 has it, guys. Like, come on, the FX30, why do we not have this on the A7S III? This is a very easy feature that Sony could have added in, and to be quite frank, I'm thoroughly disappointed that they didn't put this in, because this should be in the camera. I mean, I can't comprehend, it doesn't make any sense to me why they would leave this out. They added the new quick menu, everything like that, but they didn't choose to add the custom LUT input, which I really don't understand. Why, Sony? Why would you leave that out? That is something I know a lot of us were looking forward to, and not putting that in, it's upsetting to say the least. Overall, I'm sure that all of us are very thankful for the update, but it would have been nice to have the custom LUT input. I understand, you know, internal RAW and all this other stuff, we can't have it all. But if these lower and newer model cameras can have the custom LUT input, why can't a flagship camera, when it originally came out like the Sony A7S III, have that? It really doesn't make any sense. So I know there's going to be a new firmware update coming in September for the shutter angle, which is great, but I really do hope that they will put the custom LUT inputs on the A7S III, because again, this is just a feature that should have been there in the first place. Overall, version 3 wasn't too bad to install. You can't do it through the SD card, which sucks. You have to do it through the computer. I actually had issues doing it through the Mac. You have to download like a new driver, you have to go through a bunch of permissions. So I ended up just keeping it simple and did it through my desktop. So I don't know what the reason is for that, but my understanding is from the next firmware, they will be moving to SD card installation, which has always been easier, and I don't know why they didn't do that from the start. So I am looking forward to that. Overall, the A7S III has always been a great camera, and this is obviously going to enhance it a little bit, but I do want to talk about one more quick thing that I've noticed no one's really talking about. The aspect markers, which is pretty much the aspect ratios with the lines and stuff, the safety lines. The A7S III compared to the FX3 are very different. On the FX3, you have 9:16 safety lines as the aspect ratio. You have 2.0, you have 235, 239, 1:1, which you do not get on the A7S III. You don't get 9:16, you don't get 239, you don't get 2, you don't get 1/1, you don't get 3:2. I just don't understand why. Like it really baffles me, because again, it's not necessarily a cinema feature. It's just like when you're doing reels or whatnot, being able to frame it is such a big deal. I do shoot horizontal sometimes and export as landscape, but having that frame on the FX3 really helps. So I don't know again why they couldn't add it in the A7S III, which is pretty much an identical camera to the FX3, besides a few things like the cooling fan and the way the body's built. But besides that, the sensor and everything else is exactly the same. I understand where they kept calling the FX3 part of, you know, the FX line, and this is the Sony Alpha line. However, they're pretty much the same cameras, and adding a couple of these things would only enhance the sales and people wanting to, you know, buy either camera. Like I got both. But honestly, I really wish that the A7S III would have the custom LUT input and the aspect ratio markers, because I think it would make such a big difference. But besides that, guys, look, again, it's a welcome firmware. I really do hope Sony will listen to us as the consumers and pro-consumers for the next update, that hopefully it will get the custom LUT input, which again, should have been there from the start. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay safe and be well.